Hello and welcome to another episode of Statford Bridge, Chelsea by the numbers. A happy episode. Chelsea won 4-2 against Brighton. Cole Palmer scored 4 goals, and we had a lot of fun on Saturday. We'll get right into it. We'll get into the game, and we'll talk about some more projecting out the season stuff and critically kind of a turning point for the models this year. Off the bat, Chelsea beat Brighton 4-2. This is a pretty good result. Chelsea beat Brighton last year as well. Both games, we played them last year. But neither win was quite as convincing as yesterday, where Chelsea, despite feeling a little bit all over the place defensively, were very comfortable. Very comfortable. And the big thing is that Cole Palmer went off, but Chelsea looked good, man. They created a lot. They didn't give up that much, even though it felt like they gave up a lot more. If we kind of break into the stats, it was a 4.2 to 1.1 XG game. Again, you can take the penalty out of that, and it's still a pretty clear XG beatdown. And then if you break into the quality of chances that Brighton got, right? Like, if their best chance by far is Bob Sanchez, who did not have a good game. Bob Sanchez passing the ball to Carlos Baliba for a breakaway, and him coming out for a cross he had no business coming for that gets headed into an empty goal. Like, other than that, Brighton get one good chance off of a Welbeck slip that's about quarter of an expected goal, and other than that, it's a lot of shots from distance. And we're going to talk about the shots from distance thing a little bit later. But on the flip side, Chelsea just created good chance after good chance after good chance, mostly because Brighton played with a suicidally high line. Mark Our Stats has the Mark Stats bot, and they had Brighton's average defensive action height at the halfway line, 49.7 meters, which is insane. But Chelsea did a very good job of getting in behind that high line, even though Jorginho Ruder seemed to think that Chelsea wouldn't be able to do that. But they did. They really prioritized playing into runners in depth and attacking off of that. And what we saw was, despite Chelsea conceding first to a unfortunate goal out of a kind of freak moment, is Nicholas Jackson gets played through off of an underhit back pass, holds it up, squares for Palmer for an empty goal. Then we have a penalty off of a lovely bit of combination play from Jadon Sancho off of a high ball win. And then you have a freakishly good free kick from distance. And then you have another high ball win that's a slip-through ball for a Cole Palmer finish at the near post. And somewhere in there, Bob Sanchez decides to try and make it a game. But really, Chelsea flattened them in terms of chance creation in the first half, where it was about 2 expected goals to 0.8. And again, a large chunk of that is self-inflicted, where in the second half it was one-way traffic. In the second half, Chelsea really prioritized, even more than in the first half, can we get him behind? Can we get him behind? Can we get him behind? We saw Cole Palmer drift into wider areas to play kind of clipped through balls over the top and in behind over and over and over again. Nicholas Jackson got him behind over and over and over again. He doesn't score. But he otherwise has a very good game. I think he puts up something like 1.4 expected goals, which is a crazy return for a striker in one game. And that's kind of what the game was. In the second half, Chelsea fixed some things defensively, which is why you see that XG conceded total drop from 0.8 to 0.3 in the second half. And I was talking with Sam with CFC Central about this, and one of the big things we saw was that the way Brighton have traditionally played is with a 6 and 2 8s. And Chelsea started the game with Moises Caicedo deeper to manage the generally it would be João Pedro as the 10 who would be free to get it there. But when João Pedro isn't available for the game, now your resources that you need to allocate there are a lot less. And Enzo Fernandez was very late stepping to people in the first half. Jadon Sancho had a lot of trouble picking up Ferdy Kadioglu, inverting into midfield from right back, right, like kind of coming into the space here. And the press in the first half, even though there were some decent turnovers, it wasn't really productive. What we saw in the second half is that both Palmer and Jackson, pressing as two strikers, were way more aggressive. And we saw, again, more high turnovers. There was a great one where Caicedo jumped and then plays Palmer for a breakaway that he seemed to put wide. But Chelsea were much more secure in the second half, and really all the quality of opportunities went out in the second half, and it was much more shots from distance with traffic or things that got blocked of that nature. And all around, it's a pretty good performance. I think there's been a lot of talk about, is Enzo Maresca pragmatic? Is he tactically flexible? Is he adjustable? Right? And there's a couple things. The first is that it's probably a good thing for your coach to be not flexible in his goals or his principles, but flexible in the ideas to get there. Right? Like, we want a coach at Chelsea who wants to prioritize not giving up high-quality chances. We want a coach who prioritizes creating high-quality chances. We want a coach who is smart about how they want to get there in terms of, we're not going to take a tremendous amount of long shots. We're going to use the wingers for box entries to then create better chances in the final third or whatever it is. And what we've seen so far is that Enzo Maresca has been pretty flexible about how he gets there. In that this game, Brighton played with an insanely high line, and we did not see any trying to bait the press, because you don't have to. The press is there. So Chelsea played one pass and then kicked it over their heads. And the game felt very Pochettino, because Chelsea gave up some of the ball for transition moments. And I think, I got asked about this on stream, but I think we need to maybe not frame that as Chelsea made a tactical decision and that's how the game went. There are two teams playing. Brighton made a tactical decision that impacts the way the game is played more, right? If you put your defensive line at halfway with four kind of slow defenders, and in a way that it's going to be easy to play over your head, that's what everyone's going to do. Man City are going to do that. Liverpool are going to do that. Arsenal are going to do that. Barcelona are going to do that. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going to kick it over your head. So, did Chelsea choose to give up the ball for transition moments as much as Brighton gave them transition moments, so they kicked it in behind? That's a different way to frame it. But I think in the second half, Chelsea were a little bit less, not less transitional, because it was still lots of direct play in behind, but they were a little bit better at killing the game with the ball. If you look at the possession totals, the first half they go from 37% to 47%, and it's just a lot more control in the second half of those dangerous moments. But that was Chelsea Brighton as a whole. Podcast listeners, you'll take a short break here. Video listeners, we'll keep going straight. So that was the game. Where does that leave us? And leaves us in a few places. The most interesting is that if we look at the Opta Analyst model tables, based on their X points and based on their predicted finishes, Chelsea have been the third best team this year. This does not include Tottenham and Villa's games today and United's games today. But crucially, they've popped up to 50% in the predicted tables. So at the start of the season, they were somewhere between 25 and 33. That number has come up a little bit more. It was 43 last week. It was at 50% earlier today. I suspect with Villa dropping points, it will come up even more from there. But really, Chelsea are starting to push themselves kind of up and up and up the predicted points table, where I think I have them at 68 based on the year-over-year comparisons. It's starting to creep up there. Now, from a straight year-over-year points comparison, Chelsea are only 5 points ahead of where they were last year. 5 points is a lot, but it wouldn't be enough to insulate them against something like a points deduction. But it's a good start. I think the real test for Chelsea is going to be this stretch that we see after the international break. How do they handle Liverpool, Newcastle United, Arsenal? How do they handle that stretch there? Because that's some real tough games. And we'll see how that goes for Chelsea. But I think when we're looking year-to-year stats-wise, there are more green shoots than you'd think, I think, based on watching so far. So if we kind of look at the smaller metrics first, you'd see, okay, Chelsea's shot volume is down, but their shot volume against is down, but their shot volume for is also down. And so we've seen Chelsea, because they're winning in many of these games, they get to play with the game state advantage. And so they don't have to force the issue to generate shots, and the teams they're playing against do. Whereas in the same fixtures under Mauricio Pochettino, you think of the West Ham away game, they're losing for most of the game, but they're on top in the game, so they're chasing to great shots. The same thing happened Wolves away, so on. The Brighton game here is interesting because last year we take an early red card, a first half red card, so that is very much skewing some of the metrics here. But that's kind of where that was. If we look at the box touches, again, similar thing. Chelsea have been winning most of these games. They don't have to generate field tilt. They get to play mostly in transition, particularly in the second halves. However, if we look at the XG side of things, it looks quite a bit better, right? Chelsea have gone from a 1.8 to a 1.9 XG team. That's basically the same. And they've dropped from a 1.3 to a 1.0 XG team defensively. That's a little bit better. I'm more confident that signal is real, especially when you give the fact that Chelsea have been winning most of these games, so their XG against should be inflated because they're giving up more shots. And one of the really interesting things that we see so far with why Chelsea have a worse shot differential but have a much better XG differential, and is if we look at the shooting stats. So if we look at non-penalty expected goals per shot, Chelsea have the best non-penalty expected goals per shot in the league. That means they're creating, on average, the highest quality chances in the entire league. So when you say, okay, they are only creating mid-table volume, right? City have more, Spurs have more. That is absolutely true. But when we look at the quality of those shots, yes, Chelsea have 35% less volume than City or Tottenham, but they also have 50% higher shot quality. They have very much made a concerted effort to increase shot quality over shot volume. On the flip side of this, yes, Chelsea are giving up more. They're giving up slightly fewer shots than last year, but it's basically the same. On the flip side of that, Chelsea have given up the fourth best shot quality against in the league. This is really nice. Brighton are horrific in this metric, but this is really nice. You want very low shot quality against. And this is one of those things that like you can really suffocate your metrics by decreasing the quality of chance you get at the potential increase of volume over the course of a season. But I think Chelsea have done a pretty good job of prioritizing defending the really big chances and giving up a little bit of volume, where like if we go back and look at the fault mobs of this Brighton game, like if we go look, it's all outside the box. If we go look at some of the previous games like the West Ham game and go look at the shot quality, mostly outside the box or in wide areas. If we go to the one before that one, Bournemouth is maybe a little bit different because they kind of peppered us and got whatever they wanted, but it's a lot outside the box. If we go, we can do the same thing with Palace and so on and so on. But Chelsea have done a pretty good job of denying the super high quality scoring chances, and that's kind of where we are right now. That's what we know about this team, is they're getting a tremendous amount of lift off of their shot quality and their shot quality conceded, and they're getting tremendous performances out of their leading attackers, where if you look from an expected goals perspective, Nicholas Jackson and Cole Palmer are both north of one expected goal or assist a game. That is non-penalty expected goal or assist a game. That is unbelievable. to have two players doing this at the same time in the same 6-match stretch is like unheard of. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting, especially when you have Palmer on such a finishing heater at the same time. And I think, again, there's been a lot of talk this week about how do you get Christopher Nkunku into the team. He's one of your best players. You don't want him just being a rotation guy. And, it's tough to balance because these guys are working as an attack right now. I thought Noni Madueke got a little bit of stick for his performance yesterday, but I thought he was mostly fine. I thought it was right to not bring João Felix on for what the game was. I thought Mudryk was a better fit for it. He came on and did nothing, but whatever. Again, I think Chelsea have been pretty smart so far this season, and I'll be very curious to see how it goes from here. That's it from me from this podcast. We play in the Europa League against Ghent, or Genk, one of the Belgian G's on Thursday against Ghent, and then Forest, and then international break, and then a big important run coming up in November. That's it for me. If you're liking the pod, leave it a like, give it a subscribe, a comment, a 5-star review, whatever you want. Makes me happy as a podcaster, makes these more fun. And if you're liking the streams post-game, those have been really fun as well. So thank you all for listening, and as always, enjoy the soccer.